Okay, so as promised, here is the video on how to remove the seats and replace the seat heaters. So starting here on the back of the seat, I've already pulled the negative cable to the car battery. I've let that sit for about 10 minutes to kind of discharge and make sure that no sensors go off when I unplug the seats. Any kind of airbag warnings or anything like that. So I'm going to start by removing these T40 screws back here on the rear of the seat. And what I've done, again, is I've pulled the seat all the way forward so I can... Okay, so these little buggers were a little hard to get out. Actually, they were terribly difficult to get out, but they're out. That's how big they are right there, two of them on the rear. If you plan on doing this yourself, be prepared to use a little elbow grease. I actually have some air tools, and so I got sick of turning the wrench a quarter inch at a time. It was so in there pretty good as far as bolted in there. Just pulled out the old air wrench. Doesn't mean you need this equipment to get the job done. Just be prepared to again, use a little elbow grease to get those two bolts out. Okay, to remove this, let's take a little flathead, yank it out right there, pull it out. And it should come all right out here. There we go, just like that. That disconnects. Time to get the seat belt out here on the side of the seat. And so, thought about using the screwdriver, but just going to try and remove this panel. It looks like it's separate from the rest of the casing here. So, just going to kind of give it a little tug here. And there we go. Looks like that comes right out. You see the clips right there. It looks like they kind of go on top of these little latches, so if you just kind of lift up there, looks like it'll pop right off. And let's see what this side does over here. Remember, whenever you're doing something you're unfamiliar with, just be gentle. It all comes out. There we go. Kind of give it a little rotate down, and it does kind of the same thing. So looks like you can just kind of lift it up, sorta, and get access to the seat belt here. So now this little plastic covering came off. So now it just looks like a standard, I'll get the size for you here in just a second. Alright, had to pause the video there for a second because I had to remove this piece again, just a flathead screwdriver or the plastic trim removal tool in my case. Pops this top covering off, and after we've undid the bolt, this comes right off. Get the seat belt removed from the seat, and now we should be able to go ahead and just remove the seat from the vehicle. Let's give it a try. Okay, the seat's removed from the car, and again, just a quick recap. All I had to do was remove the two bolts from the rear of the car, unscrew the seat belt, and remove the main wiring harness. There was no more wiring to remove. One thing to keep in mind before you turn off the battery to the actual vehicle when you start, do not lift the seat all the way up. Otherwise, you'll have no clearance to actually remove the seat. It'll be pressed against the headliner, and you'll find yourself having to reconnect the battery to get the seat low enough to remove. Otherwise, a little cumbersome removing the seat, but definitely something one person can do. Okay, so to remove the side panel here with the switches, what you're gonna have to do is there's a little notch right here. Get in here a little bit close, and some sunlight kind of making it hard to see. But in the front of it, there's this little plastic piece. All you do is kind of lift it up, and this piece right here, you lift that up, and it comes right off so it's nice and loose. And from there, you're just going to kind of loosen up the whole thing by lifting it upwards, and it should lift this whole thing upwards. It should come right off. Pretty straightforward on removing this. So you got a clip right here on the top side that connects to this bar right here. You just kind of got to lift it up, kind of lift it away, and kind of pull it up at the same time. Like I said, the two clips that are right here on the front of the seat, you just kind of pull up. They're connected to this bar here. And then on the back side, you've got a small T20 screw, little star screw there, and it's connected to the rear of it, right through that hole right there. Okay, so looks like I am going to remove this bar. Looks like it's just connected by two small T screws right here, one on the rear, and then looking up here in the front, you've got one right there as well. So looks like two small screws, and I can remove this, and that gives me access to the clips that hold the the cover in here. If we look on the other side of the seat real quick, see right here, I've already loosened up this side, and it's going to come right off. I'm going to gently pull the seat back here, right here. So lifting the seat so you can see the underneath of it. Here, you've got these two zip ties right here. Going to unclip those, and that should allow me, with both the sides loosened and that, to remove. Just go ahead and pull the cover back and get access. And this is the cable to the heating pad. I'm going to undo that right now, get these zip ties, get that bar removed, and we should see the heating pad after the next step. So I did end up removing the main cushion from the actual seat itself. And the reason I did that is because once I actually lifted this side, or these sides up, I noticed we've got these hog rings. These hog rings are little rings basically attaching this cover to the pad. Here's another couple where these plastic hooks are not. So again, here's the cabling to the heating pad, which goes in there. And to remove the pad, once I got all these plastic pieces off, there were just 4 more on the back side here, these plastic pieces. Once I loosened these, the pad came right off. It's very easy to remove from the actual seat itself. So now I'm going to take this inside and see if I can't go ahead and get this cover removed, so I can actually either lay the new heating pad on top of here, because this is the heating pad, the old heating pad that I'm going to replace, and it's coming off pretty easily, but it is kind of glued to it. But as you can see right here, it's starting to take a little bit of the cushion. I don't want that to happen. So let me get this cover off here, and then we'll go from there. Figure out how to get this thing wrapped up. Let me show you what's going on here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm getting these needle nose pliers pretty much underneath one of these hog ties, or hog rings rather. Getting it underneath, and then once I get it underneath, I'm just kind of using the leverage of the bar that it's against to kind of twist it. And what that allowed me to do is loosen it up so it comes right off. And again, what I'm probably going to do is just, instead of getting these bent back into shape and squeezing them back, it's just getting some zip ties. That's going to keep this in place. As you can see, it's just the metal bar right there. Work the zip tie around there. That way I can strap that back down when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these hog rings. I imagine when you wonder, why does this cost so much in labor, getting the actual seat out and the 2 bolts, undoing the wiring, removing the little plastic covers to get access to this, and getting this cover off the vehicle, off the seat itself, that's literally no more than 30 minutes of your time from start to that point. This seems to be the annoying part here that's going to take some time. Getting these hog rings off, and I have 6 on these each side. I probably have at least 4 on the cushion itself. So you're looking at about 10 hog rings I'm probably going to have to remove here, if not a few more. So that can be not difficult, but a little laborious. And then you have to kind of work off the foam, off the pad, the heating pad, off the foam itself. So I think that's where the labor's at. But again, none of this is actually too difficult. It's just time consuming. I figure once I'm done with all of this, it's probably going to set me back about an hour and a half per seat. So removing these hog ties is a bit like a game of operation here. You've got to get in with some needle nose pliers or any kind of tool that will suffice, and get in there and kind of remove those things. Give them a good twist. That's what I've been doing. These are far more annoying than I thought it would be originally. So here's how many I've removed so far. Probably close to 20 so far, and I still have about 2 or 3 more to go. Looking at this so far though, I've been able to get the majority of them off. And so as you see here, here's one that I kind of left in place. They just clip around the piece of the cover, and then there's a metal rail that goes on the actual seat cover. And so that's what keeps them together. But again, zip tie will serve the same purpose. And so that's the route I'm going to go when it comes to reinstalling this. That way if I ever need to get back in here for any reason, it's just a good pair of snips and about 3 minutes of my time, as opposed to, well, I've been doing this for a little over 20 minutes now. Like I said, I still have 3 more to go on this side, and then I should be able to take this cover off and get access to the heater. So almost there. Great googly moogly. Finally got it removed. So again, once you get these plastic little end clips off, it's removing all of the horrible, terrible hog rings. And so again, about 20 of them or so. There were, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 plus 6, 24 hog rings, and I never want to see them again. And fortunately I won't. So this is the old seat heater right here. It is glued to the cover, and so in some places it peels off pretty nicely, but in other places it starts eating at this. So what I'm going to do is try nice and slow, try and remove this so I don't start doing this right here. If it gets to a point where it looks like I can't, there is some adhesive remover that you can use. But if it gets silly, what I'm going to do is just kind of leave this on the current pad and then place the new pad on top of it. So at this point, this is pretty much, you choose the path you want to go with, whether you want to lay the new piece on top and just go with it, or attempt to remove this old one and do it that way. Of course, discretion is yours. But let me see how far I can get and move on from there. Alright, that took all of about 60 seconds to go ahead and kind of loosen the adhesive and pull this nice and slow. What I ended up doing is just slicing the bolster edges, because these weren't coming out very well. They were taking a lot of the seat with it, and I didn't want to damage anymore. I don't have the adhesive remover I need to get this part done. The bottom didn't really take much of the seat at all, didn't cause too much damage at all. So I just basically sliced those ends from the bolster, from the main pad, and out the old one goes, and in the new one is about to come. So again, this is the one that I picked up from Saab parts. I'm going to lay this right here on the current cushion, and lay the bolsters on top of the old ones. Alright, so I've started laying in the seat again, and instead of using hog rings again, what I've done is gotten zip ties where those hog rings used to be at, lined them up, and so what I'm going to do now is cinch them down and then trim the edges here, trim the ends of the zip ties, and that will do the same job that the hog rings did, but it's going to be a lot easier if I ever need to take it out. Hopefully I won't ever have to do that, but A, it makes it easier to take it out, but B, it just makes it easier to install as well. Installing new hog rings, you really do need the specialized tool to get the hog rings in, the pliers. And so this is just a much easier way to get the cover back down where it needs to be and how it needs to be without all the hassle of the hog ring. So the seat's now installed, and the seat heater has been on for about 5 minutes now, and it is nice and warm. It is not shut off once. I have it on all three. So good news, the bottom heater was the culprit. It was causing it to cycle off every 1 or 2 minutes. So thank goodness now I'll have a warm seat whenever I want, as much as I want. And so to recap, again, the seat is now installed. I need to finish installing the seat belt here. But it was very easy to remove this seat. Just the two bolts. Just the two bolts on the rear, the main harness that's underneath, the wiring harness, and then the seat belt here, which I need to reinstall. All very simple. Once you disconnect those, the seat comes right out. From there, you're going to be removing this portion. Again, just follow the steps, very straightforward. Just lift this piece more or less up and it'll come right out. Start at the front here pieces, and then this part right here, and then the screw in the back, and that comes right out. From there you'll loosen the seat cover with the plastic surrounds, and then you'll have to deal with the hog rings. Again, that was the most time-consuming portion of this whole process. But as a whole, removing this seat, getting the seat heater removed or reinstalled, and then getting the seat back in the car and getting up and running should take you no more than 2 hours. Even if you're kind of going at this without the video instructions, it's all pretty straightforward. The hog rings, you're going to need a couple sets of needle nose pliers. Just give them a good twist against the bar that they're installed on. And as you notice in the video, I used zip ties for the reinstallation, and that did the trick. Works great, just as effective as the hog rings, without all the pain of having to remove them in the future if need be. So hope this video helps you out and saves you a few bucks when it comes to replacing your seat heaters on your NG Saab 9.5.